Good morning and welcome to this episode number 27 of the RDO podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jason Von Cannell, with my brother and co-host, Alex Von Cannell, who's a little bit hungover this morning.
Yeah.
Just a touch.
I think it wasn't, maybe it was the late night. It's just a headache, a big headache.
And isn't it typical that today your aircon won't work as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Feeling
if Alex gets a little bit sweaty and incoherent during the podcast, you'll understand why. So we've got a couple of things to go through today. Obviously, some of it's just going to follow on from last week because there's some pretty big stuff, happening in the news at the moment. So why don't we just get straight into it? So let's start.
Shouldn't we start with your thing? Because that's a week old.
My thing?
The weigh-in.
Oh yeah, so okay, let's do that. So obviously, we have set ourselves some health and fitness goals for the year. So we thought we would just do another.
You have.
Well, I have
Yep.
as well. Yep. So I'll do a weigh-in. So obviously, I didn't hit my 95 kilo target from last year. I weighed in this morning, and I weighed in at 102 on the nose. So 102 on the dot. So from October, when this whole thing started till now, I was 107.5 back in October. And I've stabilised at 102 now. Now, I have my health and fitness goals got a little bit hijacked by health goals over the last 2 months because we've been having Nate go to daycare, which, as I've said before, has destroyed my immune system. So I've really been sick on and off since the start of December. I haven't touched a weight since the start of December.
Yep.
I've barely been going on walks and stuff like that for at least all of January. I went on a walk yesterday, the first time I've done the 5K walk in probably 2 months.
Yep.
And it's really, really funny how much I'm feeling it on the fronts of my shins, just because it's so easy to lose. Like I used to do that walk almost every day for a year or two, and now it's sort of lost, so I'll get back into doing that. I'm on the mend, Nate's on the mend too, which is the most important thing as well. So what I have been making sure of is like just had a mindset shift this year and just gone, you know what, I've come to the point where I can't train my way out of a bad diet anymore. So I'm just not going to have the bad diet anymore. So I think that's one of the real reasons why my weight has stabilised, even though I haven't been able to do any of the activity, is because I just haven't been eating like an asshole.
But it is 90% food, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Weight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So...
what did you have this morning with me here?
I had a croissant.
Yeah, we had a delicious croissant from Gramps.
And it was good too. It was really, really good.
But black coffee though, only black coffee.
Yeah. But yeah, just, like getting like 3 square meals a day, eating good food every time, and I just haven't been eating junk at night time, which, that's probably 50% of my problem, is just eating junk at night time.
It's literally just becoming a real adult.
Yeah.
Because I know that I still feel like, ooh, goodies. Still feel like a child.
Yeah.
Dietary wise.
And that's the thing. It's that tricky thing, right? So you go from having boundaries on you as a kid, and then even when you move out, you've got other boundaries too, which are generally financial boundaries as well. So, I remember being a broke teenager who's just moved out of home, who I've always worked, I always had some money, but, you're not spending it on supplements or vitamins or anything like that. You're just generally buying junk and pounding it while your metabolism's going so fast. And then you just get into bad habits. This is actually interesting too. So, one of the key drivers for my behavioural shift is Nate has literally just hit that point in his development where I've noticed him starting to copy me.
Yeah.
So yesterday, for example, I was sitting on the couch and I yawned, and he was sitting on the couch next to me, and he looks at me and goes, and opens his mouth. Like I don't think he knew what I was doing, but I yawned, so he opened his mouth, and I'm like, okay, now he's like doing that monkey see, monkey do phase where I don't want that monkey to see this monkey sitting on the couch smashing a bag of Doritos. I want to see that monkey. I want that monkey to see this monkey, eating good foods, which it's probably been another driver of it as well. So generally what I'm eating for lunch now, for example, is something that I make for both of us. So I'm making him healthy food, and it might just be, it's simple shit. It's not like, anything gnarly, but it'll just be, one of his favourite foods is roast chicken and broccoli.
Mm.
So I'll steam up some broccoli, we'll buy roast chicken or something like that, and then we'll both just have roast chicken and broccoli for lunch. And like, you know, a lot of like bodybuilders and stuff like that just eat chicken and broccoli all the time anyway, but it's just a cleaner way of eating. And it's also been a good thing because when he sees me eat the food, he goes, oh, this is good food.
Yeah.
Rather than if I gave him healthy stuff and I ate something else, he'd be like, oh, why aren't you eating it?
Get a bag shapes.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyway, so 102 on the nose this morning, which I think the lightest I got to during my weight loss challenge was only in the 101s and a bit anyway, so not far off that. I wouldn't be surprised if I've slightly deflated a little bit after not lifting a weight for 2 months. So that's probably an element there too. But all in all, like actually feeling physically better for just eating better.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is a good thing. And it becomes a positive cycle which continues on.
Definitely, yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, you know, if you go 3 monthly, half yearly, sort of how it's tracking from there too.
Yeah. I was supposed to get my body scan this week, but I've actually been really busy at work, so I haven't had the chance. So I'll try and get it in next week.
Yep.
But the only thing I'm feeling from the gym, besides absolutely shredding my feet on Sunday, was my watches don't fit anymore.
Yeah, right.
So I've actually got to go put links in my watches. So all the watches that have, stainless bracelets and things like that are now too tight.
Yeah, right.
That's the only difference I've noticed so far.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I spoke in the last podcast about my cardio has increased because of the riding to. We use the city bikes. Have I spoken about that?
I don't think you've spoken about it on the pod. You've told me about it, but
so before last year, at the end of last year, Tarch and I just wanted to go from St. Lucia to Felons Brewery, and it's a really nice track on the water.
What's the distance between the two?
I don't know what the distance is, but I know it's 50 minutes on the bike. Okay. One way.
Yeah.
And it's all flat except for the part near our house, which is really up and down and up and down. And when I did it last year, after the up and down, once I had that pump in my thighs, I was so gassed that I had to stop. I was seeing stars, like it was really bad. And then I didn't ride all the way back. I only rode half the way back and then got a Lime scooter and scooted
right.
the rest.
Yeah.
We did it not last weekend, the weekend before. I did the whole thing flat out.
Yep.
All the way there and all the way back. So that is a real cardio.
Yeah, you can see a marker of difference.
Yeah.
And that's one of the positive things about exercise, right? Is that you can do something today that you couldn't do a month ago, or you could do something today that you couldn't do a year ago. I was telling you this morning, like, because I haven't really been doing pull-ups or anything like that for a long time, I pretty much could only do like maybe half of one or even one maybe a couple of months ago. And then now I'm at a point where I can do two.
Yeah.
And and then I can have a bit of a rest and I can do another two. So then I'll just keep working on it and building on it and, hopefully get to a point where I can do 10 or 20 or whatever the case may be. So it really is amazing what your body can do when you give it the right stimulus, Like it will rise to any occasion or it will lower itself to, any standard that you've set for it.
It is time to thrive for 2021.
100%.
Let's not forget it.
Absolutely. And I think that's it. Look, for me, I've got that big key motivator of Nate. Like, I want to set a good example for him. I want to be a good, positive role model for him. So, it's important for me now. It's not about me anymore. It's about what habits I pass on to him. So, that's a pretty strong motivator to do the right things.
Yep.
Which is cool.
So, do you want to touch on, should we talk about GameStop now?
Yeah, so obviously we spoke a lot about GameStop last week. One of the things that we will say as well too on that is, so last week's episode prompted a lot of discussion, and probably the most discussion that we've had in a while. And one of the things that we were really, really happy with is we feel like that you guys in the community that are starting to sort of build a little bit around this podcast is a very positive but also respectful community.
Yep. And truth-seeking.
A truth-seeking community, that's right. Where people we're actually having conversations where it's not mudslinging, it's not like normally what happens on the internet is you have two people with opposing points of view, then there's an army of people behind each of them with the same differing points of view.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of actually trying to discuss the facts of the situation, the easiest way for them to try to win an argument is to discredit the other person and then remove them from, like, if you've got no credibility, then your point's moot because you no longer matter. I was really, really happy to see the level of respect and intelligence shown by our community with these conversations that we've been having in the past week. So shout out to you guys, really appreciate it.
I actually want to go even deeper than that. I think that was a really good example of what this world actually needs right now. So I had a conversation with a friend last night, and we got real deep in it. We spoke about every single topic, but we got in. We started the conversation with trying to find the truth in mind, and it was not about defending your position. It was about seeking what is real, right? And we probably spoke for. Now, we were drinking, but drinking can tend to get emotional. It didn't. It was the most rational conversation that I've had for a very long time. And we discussed that, like, that is actually what people need to see. Now, he made a good point because he's not the most articulate person. He goes, I struggle to get my message across.
Yeah.
Because he's not as articulate.
Yeah.
But he made a great point. He goes, but when I listen to people speaking like that, you start to pick up, techniques on how to convey your point. So that's a powerful thing. But it's also a really powerful thing to truly listen to the opposing view.
Yeah.
Not hear it, listen to it.
Yeah.
And when someone says something, making sure you let them finish, so that because half a sentence, there might be you might not get the payoff that you're supposed to have in the setup, but also showing that you are actually listening and genuinely listening to what they have to say.
Yeah, in the Steve Scott book, I think it's the 15 Disciplines, which my wife's big into at the moment. There's a principle in that which is about not listening to respond, listen to understand.
Listen to understand, yeah. Massive.
And I think... that's awesome, that's next door. I think that is something that, again, social media doesn't really promote, is listening to understand. A lot of people, when they're reading comments and stuff like that, they're literally looking for the things that they can then bark back at and get their point across more. And I think that is something that, as a society, you benefit from when you listen to people with opposing views and try to understand where they're coming from. There's so much happening in the world at the moment where if there was a bit more listening to understand and less listening to respond, it takes the heat out of the conversations. And then when both parties don't feel like they're in a fight, you're actually going to come to some level of agreement, which is usually we say it all the time. Usually, the truth is somewhere around the middle. And
that's what happened in that thread on Facebook.
Yeah.
I think we all came to a common ground about a certain subject, even though we're on opposing views, or something that we all agreed. And you'd never have found that if you started to accuse someone, if you started to make automatic assumptions about someone, if you just tried to defend your post. The conversation I had with my friend last night, I changed my mind about two things.
Yeah.
That changed my mind because I in my mind I've gone, I never even considered that part of it. And it's a good thing to admit you're wrong, and it's fine to change your mind.
Yeah.
So I was really, really impressed, and I think from that conversation last night, and also that thread on the internet made me really hopeful that there is a real a movement that we can start, and it's just by having real conversations.
For sure. And I think that this sort of leads into something else that we're going to speak about as well, because I think people have woken up now and realised how inflammatory social media has become because of the algorithms. So one of the things that came out during the week, which was really interesting, and this is out of the United States as well, but in Florida, there was a congressman who was talking about changes they're going to be making in legislation in Florida around social media. And some of these changes were going to be are mainly centered around the free dispersal of information. So one of the major issues with the social media platforms as they currently stand is that certain stories get passed around with gay abandon and go viral, and certain other stories just get completely quashed and pushed down. And look, they'll pretend that there's no agendas involved. There's always agendas involved. Like any business that's making any business decision, it's to support their business. So there's always an agenda there. It just depends on which side of politics or which side of a subject better benefits that company, right? So they're proposing these laws, which are very, very intense laws. Like for example, one of the things they're proposing is that if they can prove that a story is being stifled, they will actually fine these companies $100,000 a day until that stops.
Yeah. Would that include the ban as well, banning a person?
Yep.
For no reason?
Yep. Yeah, that was one of the other things they brought up, was having consistent application of your terms and conditions across all users. Because the problem is, and like, again, I hope people are starting to see this stuff more and more and more. Whenever a company goes, oh, they violated our terms and conditions, and they don't actually give you what they did, that's what, like, obviously, the Trump being kicked off every social media platform was the most egregious example.
Yeah.
They all said he violated our terms of conditions. Now, if you go online, there are people violating the terms and conditions every single day. If you're part of a meme group, which makes...
You are only breaking the terms and conditions.
You're exactly right.
You're never not doing that.
Yeah, now look, they're jokes, but like 90% of the stuff that gets passed around those groups would be classed as hate speech, which is in breach of a lot of the terms and conditions. But again, because we're insignificant, they just let you roll.
Yeah.
Whereas if like what they're looking for is a consistent application of the terms and conditions. And if your terms and conditions aren't working, change them.
Yeah.
Let people know what's changing, and have not only a consistent application of them, but also have an appeals process where you can actually go to these companies and say, hey, can you please explain to me what I've done wrong? Can I rectify it? And can I be brought back on again? Because the problem is a lot of them just go, you violated our terms and conditions and you're out. And there's no way of getting back into it, which, as we discussed before, then removes you from the social discourse.
Some of the solutions we found last night in our discussion about socials is remove the algorithm completely.
That was one of the other things that came up out of the Florida legislation. They want to give people the opportunity to opt out of algorithms.
Yeah.
Which, how good would that be?
Yeah.
I think I was telling you during the week, normally my YouTube feed is like, I use YouTube for obviously posting up all the RDO podcast stuff, and then literally I've been watching like 20 to 30-year-old video gaming videos lately. That's been my thing. I've rarely used YouTube up until the last 6 months when we started doing this. I made the mistake of watching one video, which I guess could be classified as an American right-wing video, and now my YouTube algorithm is just throwing those videos at me every single day. And I don't want that.
Yeah.
Like, I looked at a video because it was about a subject that we had spoken about on the podcast, because I'm trying to do further research. I don't want to have all that shit jammed down my throat all day. And what I found so interesting about it too, I'm watching all these other video game videos, and it's like throwing me up at like, here's an extra video game video about, like, here's another Doom speedrun. Like, that's one of the things that I've been watching, like super geeky, but whatever. Get a bit nostalgic when I look at these old games. But it's like, throws in a little bit. I watch one right-wing video, blah, 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 because I know how many views they get with that stuff.
Yeah, so removing the algo would fix that. Also, I still think it's the like the monetization of the companies, the advertising model needs to go.
I don't know if you can ever fully get rid of the advertising model. I do think that there can be a lot of positive changes made to it that can change some things, because at the end of the day, the entire world is run on advertising, any sort of media.
Yeah, but that's very dismissive. So if you just assume that it'll never stop, it'll never stop. But I'm saying it can stop. There are civilizations that have lasted a lot longer than our civilization that did not work off a capitalist advertising model.
Yeah.
And a subscription service. Well, Netflix is the perfect example of a company that's successful that doesn't advertise, doesn't sell ads. You pay for it. It's a paid service. So you can have paid services.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
of course.
Yeah. So if Facebook Premium was going to be $15 a month and you got no ads, no algos, I'm all for it. So it's dismissive to say that we can't exit a marketing. And I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. If you still think that those services are free, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
I reckon I spoke to 3 people during the week who bought something. Oh yeah, I saw this on Instagram and I bought it. Well,
I saw a post from a YouTuber the other day apologizing to his subscribers because when he uploaded the video, he accidentally clicked apply ads automatically. So normally, if you're big enough to be doing ads and stuff on your YouTube videos, you can pick when the ads come in. He applied it automatically, and I think he was saying it was like a 5-minute video that had 20 ads in it, because YouTube's just gone blah, shotgun blast of ads onto this video.
But see that, like, I pay for YouTube.
Yeah.
And I get no ads. And when someone fires their phone up and the first thing you have to see is an ad, like, I just think that's ludicrous. I think that's just... Think about, especially if you watch a lot of YouTube, think about how much time you've wasted watching ads. Like, I don't watch free-to-air TV.
Yeah, that's what annoys me too about, like, because I've got pay TV, I've got Foxtel, and there's ads on it.
Yeah.
You know, like, obviously, if you pay for the movie channels, which I don't, you can watch a movie with... Uninterrupted. But I watch all this live sport and stuff like that. It's the only reason why I've got it. And there's so many ads on it. And like I've said before, I would prefer when there's a timeout in the NBA that you go to the commentary box and the commentators are giving me stats on the game or trends they're seeing in the game or plays that have been happening. I want to see that stuff. I don't want to see ads. I've already paid for this.
Did I tell you my idea for a sporting race series?
Don't know.
So I had an idea. I always think, like, I pick hot topics, you know, and I think sporting, motorsport in particular, very expensive gateway, like very expensive sport. And one of the biggest problems with it is not overly televised. So there's that ad revenue thing is no good. No one can really see the names.
You mean the lower levels of motorsport?
Lower levels, yeah, entry level. But I thought with electrification. Okay, so when race cars are going to become electric, and they will, it's just a matter of time, more racetracks will open, because the excuse of them being too loud to shut these places down is now gone. And then I thought, well, what would actually how can you address a lot of the problems that these sports have? And I thought a 1-make electric race series, where every car is spec built, and have the cameras inbuilt in the cars. Front, rear, left, right, 360, driver, wheels, suspension, like they're all rigged up with all the cameras from, like, as part of the build. And then get an artificial intelligence to bind all the images together live to give you a telecast. So as opposed to having someone sitting there clicking it and going, okay, go to camera 2, go to camera 1. And then just putting it out there, right? Putting it out there, more people are going to see the prowess of these young drivers, right? So someone who's truly talented might actually get a crack because there's eyes on it. It should be relatively cheap because it's spec, because it's I think I have to play with the idea some more, but I think there's some real opportunity for that, to get AI to create nicely put together sporting events without the dead weight of human, these human bags of bones that are currently operating and wanting a massive profit out of it. You could literally just run an algorithm over it, a good algorithm, an artificial intelligence, to create a spectacle. Yeah. So we the viewer get to enjoy a greatly produced, action-packed thing, and to what you said, you would have some control over that kind of stuff. There's no need for you can click on which car you want to see. You can, if you want to, like, it would be really interactive.
Yeah, that sort of interaction, I think, is the next step in.
Yeah.
And you've seen that a little bit in certain sports and stuff like that. Not to the point where it could be, but having, like, if you're having a sporting game where it's like, I don't know, you're watching an NBA game, for example, or probably not NBA, but let's go AFL would be a good example, where it's played on a really large oval, and
you
the
see
ball's up the other end.
Off of the corner going, I'm going to punch this guy in the chest off camera.
Well, that's all. You might want to have player cam where your favourite player might be at the defensive end, and you might just want to have, like, a screen that shows a normal telecast going on, but then player cam with him in the top corner going, I just want to watch this bloke and what he's doing all day. And then you might, it might actually stamp out some grubby behaviour in some of the games too.
Yeah.
But also it could create more superstars. Right?
Yeah, it would evolve the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, on that note though as well, and this is completely irrelevant, but it sort of came up during the week, and your eyes will glaze over a little bit in regards to this. But one of the things here's a concept that I want to talk about, is one of the things I would like to see is we start treating athletes like athletes and not role models and spokespeople.
I think they could be role models for the thing that they do, not for the things that they say.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't like the term stay in your lane, because a lot of people go, oh, just stay in your lane, like as a dig at someone else. But there's a very, very interesting juxtaposition in the NRL that happened for me this week.
Yeah.
2 different stories that came out. The first story was that the Dragons were looking to sign Israel Folau. Now, if anyone doesn't know, Israel Folau is a very, very good player, a very good athlete. Just lost his rugby. Hates the gays. He's Mormon, I think. Yeah. So, just lost his rugby union contract because of some homophobic, his homophobic viewpoint, which he put out, and it was pretty full on, the things that he was saying. Now, again, side note. We believe in freedom of speech and freedom of expression. We love the gays. Right? We love the gays here at the RDO podcast.
We love the gays.
But obviously, like, we've had a freedom of speech debate as a theme throughout this podcast over recent weeks, and if you want freedom of speech, you've got to take the good with the bad. So he can have his viewpoint. Yeah. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if he wants to make himself look like a homophobic twat on national TV, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Let him tell everyone that he's a bigot. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's fine. Now, there was a massive backlash by Dragons fans, which we've got some friends of the podcast who are Dragons fans. Some massive backlash about it, where they were like, can't believe that they'd be looking at bringing him back to the game. He's disgusting, etc., etc., etc. Now, at the end of the day, Israel Folau is a devout Mormon. He's never had issues with, he's never been in the media for drug issues, alcohol issues, beating his missus, any of that stuff, right? Yeah. Now, fast forward to a few days later, so I'm a Broncos boy, and one of our best, most promising young players, Payne Haas, who's a front row forward, just got mixed up with the police this week. Apparently, and again, I don't know the full story, there was some sort of altercation. Police went to step in, and he's fronted court, been charged, and pleaded guilty to intimidating police.
Right.
One of which was a female police officer, where he said to her something along the lines of, "You think because you're a woman I won't touch you?"
Yeah.
Right? Now, no one is saying to remove him from the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, he is one of the best young players coming through. I was so disappointed to see this, because as a Broncos fan, I'm like, come on, guys. Just pull your heads in, right? So, again, this is one of those, I guess, virtue signaling things where it's like, where we want someone away from public view because he's anti-gay, and yet we're happy to let this bloke play who is threatening to bash a female police officer. Like, in my
seems
opinion,
like a very strange hill to die on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because out of any group in any of these, the people that you want to back are the police. Because I'll tell you right now, obviously there's been a whole, like, in America, the defund the police movement, all that sort of shit. I tell you right now, if the shit's hitting the fan, you want them to show up.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you call the police because you need something, you want them to show up. And look, like, Payne Haas is like 20 years old, 120 kilos of pure muscle. Like, he should not be intimidating a female police officer.
But I actually think you're missing the big picture out of all of this.
What's the big picture?
The big picture is exactly what we were talking about prior to this.
Mm.
They know, the media companies know that this is an engaging topic.
Mm.
Okay? That's what's going to get the eyes on it. That's what's going to get the interaction with it.
Mm.
And the only reason why they are relevant is because they get advertising money for eyes on.
Yeah.
So they've created that.
Mm.
Because you're right, if you took a step out of it, and if you looked at those things side by side, one is far more abhorrent than the other.
Yeah.
Yet, because there's a financial aspect to all of this, they know which one is going to get which one's going to jab, which one's really going to get a reaction out of it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that's the problem with the situation. So forget the case in isolation. If you're a prick, you're a prick.
Yeah.
Right? If you do a bad thing, you should get done. You should go through the courts. You should be held, accountable to courts. You're not accountable to us.
Yeah.
Social media has given us the ability for you to be accountable to us.
Yeah,
but like I said, you just pick a side. If you were never a supporter before, you're gonna hate on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you were a supporter, you're gonna defend your position.
Mm-hmm.
Goes back to what we're saying before that. We need to have a proper conversation and not let these outrageous stories grab hold of us because it is idiotic.
Yeah. Here's an interesting idea for you, and obviously in Australia, this could potentially be an election year, but it might be next year as well in Australia. There was an idea, I can't even remember where I heard this idea, but saying that on any social media platform, and also even mainstream media, television, radio, stuff like that, if remove advertising revenue from anything which is political advertising. So, for example, if you're the Australian Labor Party and you're posting up a video on YouTube about your party, no ad revenue goes to the party. If you are...
that should be a given.
If you are like a news station, for example, who's posting up political stories and stuff like that, you can't run ads over that story.
Well, part of that Florida thing, the bill that they're trying to pass,
Yeah.
they want to say that if they find that a political party has been throttled by a social media company, then they'll value that kind of coverage and add it to your
as a political donation.
As a donation, So you could get, Google could have added $1 billion worth of
free advertising for the Democrats.
Well, it's not free. Currently it's free.
Yeah, that's right. But that would go in as a donation,
and then as public record,
yeah,
right? And then you can see it. And I thought that was really, really smart.
Yeah,
Florida was they're like, you sent that to me.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my friend last night about it, and he's like, Florida's known for, like, old people where they go to retire, fedoras, cocaine, and like alligators. But they have been super progressive on, like, that's the best formed bill surrounded by big tech that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I've looked at a couple, like, even compared to Europe's one. Europe's probably fighting a lot harder. But the Florida one seemed really practical, really tangible.
It actually made sense.
It made sense, yeah.
And it's interesting, right? Like, because I do feel like we are at the precipice of a lot of things. I feel like we are on the brink of a financial revolution, which is what we're going to discuss the GameStop thing shortly as well. So there's that element to it. I think we're also on the brink of the war on big tech. Like, I think we have seen the benefits of big tech early on, so we just threw all of our support at it. Like, yep, big tech's great.
Yeah, free search, yeah.
Yep, free search is awesome. Facebook, social media is awesome. Instagram's awesome. Like, yay. Now we've let it get to a point where we're like, we're starting to see the issues with it.
Pendulum the other way.
And pendulum's now starting to swing back the other way again, which I think is a really, really positive thing.
Yeah, I can see some... when we're trying to talk about solutions to this last night, besides the no algo, which I think was good, just moving away from the platforms is another good one. Speaking
of algos, let's do an experiment. So one of the things that we've noticed recently is I think YouTube has made changes to the way their algorithm works, in that they prioritize videos now that have more comments on them. So all of you are watching on YouTube, leave a comment underneath this video. It can say whatever you want. Don't care.
I have a theory. So we've heard a couple of podcasters talk about it on YouTube. YouTube creators. My theory is Google's smelling blood in the water in the social media game, because Google's not deemed as a social media company.
No.
They're deemed as a big tech search company. But I think they are trying to. They will. My prediction is YouTube will become a social media platform.
Yeah, they want it to become the new Facebook. So it sounds like they're trying to reward behaviours
that give you interaction.
That's right. So just out of interest, if you want to help us try this out, anyone who's watching on YouTube, leave a comment below. It can say whatever you want.
What's your favourite colour?
Because I just want to see if that video is shown to more people due to the algorithm.
Yeah. It'll be a good test, because that's what's so, not scary, but that's what's so confronting about these big tech companies, is that all this stuff that's happening in the background, it's not transparent like what most businesses, when you go get a coffee, you pretty much know where the beans came from, the process that they go through with the ground, you can see the milk, but with big tech, we've got no freaking idea what happens back there.
That's right.
Like, we can't look back. And it changes all the time.
Well, yeah, and I was listening to a podcast during the week where, like, they were saying that a lot of the people who work at these companies don't even know how the algorithms work. So, because it's so, like you said, not transparent, which again, I think comes back to the fact that, like, there's been no legislation put in place for these big tech companies, because it's a space that was never legislated for, and then it grew out of nowhere exponentially and became this massive thing before the various governments could keep up with legislation, because they didn't understand how it worked either. Because all the people who write the legislation are, 65-year-old white dudes in suits who don't even know how to turn on a computer.
Yeah.
So the problem with that, and the reason why the business models aren't transparent, is because they don't have to be. Because legally they don't have to be. Yeah. Whereas so many other businesses, there's regular businesses, like Auto Bros, for example, there is legislation which states you need to do certain things. Yeah. You need to supply people with a car history check.
Yeah.
You need to be transparent with your information on the product that you're selling, whereas the big tech companies don't. But we're now starting to see that shift a bit. Obviously, the Australian government at the moment is trying to put legislation in place between the news media companies and the big tech companies. Now, we've discussed this before.
Did we discuss it here?
I believe we have. But at the end of the day, Alex has made his point very, very clear before to me, whether or not it's on the podcast, where he doesn't believe in the Australian government essentially trying to bend the arm of the big tech companies to give Australian news media companies more money to not change their business models. Because the reason why they're bleeding money is because people aren't watching traditional media anymore, and because they haven't innovated, that's why they're dying. So the answer shouldn't be legislate to pay them more money.
Exactly.
Right? So I understand that.
Well, but my actual stance is fuck big tech and fuck the news.
Yeah.
That, like, both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them are cancers on our society at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So when Google threatened to leave, bye.
Oh yeah.
You know,
like,
and
does anyone believe for a second that Google's actually going to leave the market?
Yeah.
They're kidding themselves.
So, and the news companies, just like for all the reasons that we've spoken about before, their model that they have not innovated, their financial model does not align with the benefits of mankind.
That's right.
Okay, so that's not Planet Human, or no, what did we...
Team Humanity?
Team Humanity.
Yeah.
They're not playing for Team Humanity.
No.
They're playing to sell, socks.
Yep.
So until that changes, they can both go.
Yeah. And you're starting to see, and again, I think, for me, podcasting is one of the greatest tools that we have at our disposal at the moment when it comes to actually playing on the side of Team Humanity. Because we can get on here, we can have a conversation about real stuff, and we can have nuanced points of view. And like, we don't have advertisers coming. I mean, you probably get ads on the video on YouTube. We apologise about it. We don't get paid any money off it. But we don't have advertising coming to us going, oh, you can't say that. You can't say the RDO podcast loves the gays because it doesn't align with our product.
What products would they be? What anti-gay products would they be selling?
Anti-gay products.
That's advertised. I know there's a lot of anti-gay organisations, but what products would there be that would be deemed as anti-gay? Put in the comments what you think would be.
Yeah, what's an anti-gay product? That's really interesting, because my first thought came to mind was wedding rings, but obviously we've just changed the laws over in Australia, so the gays can get married here now because we're an inclusive society. Comment below. That's your comment. What's an anti-gay product? Which will probably get us banned from YouTube anyway, but whatever. But one of the things I've noticed in like a lot of podcasts, for example, that I listen to, is a lot of them are moving to a Patreon model where you pay us so we can stay, right? Exactly like what you've been saying.
Value for value. Yeah. Pay model.
Yeah. And again, a lot of them, like obviously the No Agenda podcast is one who spouts value for value a lot, which I think is a great way of doing it too, because, their whole thing is time, talent, or treasure. So you can help them out by sending them in news clips or whatever it is. You can do cover art for them or something like that, or you can actually give them money, whichever you prefer to do. And you're right, I think that is kind of the future and where it's going to. And I think podcasting in itself is probably the more dynamic people going, okay, we see this for what it is now. That's why they're doing it in the first place. And they're going to move to these systems as well, because the Jocko podcast is starting to go to a pay one now as well.
Well, it has gone to. It's all about decentralization. You've decentralized the networks that are in place. When you think, if you really think about it like this, in Australia in particular, think back to 1995, right? Some of you aren't even that old, but can you imagine only getting information from 5 sources, which would be ABC, Channel 9, Channel 7, Channel 10, Channel 9.
Yeah.
That's it. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
That's right.
Especially with the internet age, the idea of the internet was to give everyone all the information. But we still, and this is what frustrates me about these media companies, they're still trying to hold that grip.
That's right.
In an information age, we want to trust. How can 5 sources tell us what we really need to know?
Yeah.
And especially when their model is based on advertising revenue.
That's right.
It's just ludicrous.
The other thing too, that now that I think about it as well, one of the fears I think that a lot of people have about social media changing is they're like, oh, but I have a business that I want to promote, or I have a podcast that I want to promote. And like I made the point last week, social media is completely different now to what it was even 3 or 4 years ago, where you could have a product and share it and your entire friends list would see it. It's not like that anymore. It's 25% of your friends list. Yeah. And if you don't get any interactions on it,
it's no friends.
Then it's no friends.
Yeah.
Right? So if for example, because you guys may be on Facebook, because we get a lot of interaction on Facebook at the moment too, because we're old people. if you guys go on Facebook and you say
Shout out to the guys texting us on MSN Messenger.
Yeah. But if you go on Facebook and comment all your anti-gay products and the RDO podcast page gets booted off of Facebook, I don't really care, to be perfectly frank, because it's not providing the level playing field where people can make their own decisions on what they want to follow and what they don't, and what products they like and what they don't. We talked, and we'll get into the GameStop stuff in a second, but we've talked about all the market manipulation and stuff that has been happening in the share market forever. Well, now we've got market manipulation in social media too. Yep. It's not a free marketplace. It's a marketplace where only things that support their agenda will be distributed, broadcast. And anything that doesn't, we'll just... You can go over here.
Yeah.
You can keep posting all you want, but no one's going to hear you.
Yeah.
Like, so who cares?
But isn't it funny, like, some of the real issues that are circulating, and then, we're going, Israel Folau shouldn't be allowed to play.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, at the end of the day, all he did was put his religious views out there for the whole world to see, and some people will support his views, and the majority of people, I feel, these days will not support his views.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. And the thing is, like, at the end of the day, let him have those views, because then you're going to get more viewers on your product anyway, because some people are going to watch because they support Izzy, other people are going to watch because they want to see him get smashed. It's the old pay-per-view boxing model that Floyd Mayweather made so famous.
At least if he's got a platform, then we can, and if we go by the principle of what I think the RDO podcast is becoming about, is about finding the truth, let's have the conversation.
Yeah, so Israel Folau, it's an open invitation, mate. If you want to come on the RDO podcast and tell us about your bigoted views on a podcast which is pro-gay,
we love the gays.
You're more than welcome to come on and try to change our minds, is he? Try to change our minds.
Yeah, we're going with an open eye. Imagine if we just left and he's like, do you know what? Here's some excellent points.
I don't see that happening, but hey, I've been wrong before.
Yeah,
right?
and we were going with an open mind because that's what we do.
Exactly
that's
right.
What we do.
So GameStop update. Now, the shares have tumbled this week.
Yeah, but there was a lot of factors in place. So, okay, so I want to. Now, I've lifted this off. I heard it said somewhere else, but I think it illustrates it best. Mm-hmm. So with the share price dumping, it basically, I think it's at $63. So it was $4 originally, went as high as $400, back down to $60. Okay, so the short sellers still aren't at their zero.
No.
So they're still bleeding money to a point, just not as much. A lot of people made a lot of money on that, and I'm sure some hedge funds made money off that because they knew what was going on and they could play that game a little bit.
And a lot of hedge funds have reshorted at the higher amount too, so they stand to make an absolute fortune when it eventually goes down to zero.
A lot of retail investors, some of these Reddit guys, lost money. And when I say, what was beautiful about it is they don't care. Because it was so many little amounts. It was $200, $50, 60. Like it was whatever they were willing. Like everyone knew. Like you're not going to get rich out of this. This is a stand against Wall Street.
Which I think what really frustrated them was the amounts of people who saw it as a profit opportunity, who jumped on it. Share price went up, and then they all sold out to take their profits because that wasn't the point of the exercise.
The fundamentalists will just hold the line, stay in. So, I heard it likened to the scene from 300 when Leonidas kneels to Xerxes, and then he calls one of his soldiers to throw the spear at him, and it does not kill Xerxes, but it just grazes his, and it shows that he can bleed.
That even a god king can bleed.
Even a god king can bleed, and I think that. Now we have shown what the power of community can do to Wall Street, to these big hedge funds.
Yeah.
So that is I'm stoked that it happened. I think it's an amazing event. I think it's very tumultuous. I think it's created all sorts of chaos, but it should bring someone like you'll check yourself before you do something financially now.
Yeah.
Because of that, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
I agree too. One likeness to which I'm just thinking off the top of my head, because I love 300. It's one of my favourite movies. So
shout out, put in the comments if you like 300.
Yeah.
Just say yes 300.
Yeah.
Or say this is Sparta.
Yeah. So one of the whole things around the Wall Street bets was the phrase I like the stock, because a lot of them had been concerned about whether or not they could legally be charged with collusion. And it's like, are you buying this because you're all colluding together? And it's like, no, I just like the stock.
Yeah.
So to me, that reminds me of near the beginning of 300, where Leonidas is just going for a walk with his 300, because he's not allowed to go to war. So he just goes, we're just going for a walk.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So we're just going for a walk. I like the stock. Like, it's very similar sort of...
You could make that meme. That would work.
Yeah, for sure. But... You're right. Like, I think this does show what we can do as a society. Now, I think it's also exposed, again, more of the tactics that Wall Street does every single day. Because they've thrown literally everything in the kitchen sink at the Wall Street bets guys to manipulate this back down again. So, I've heard stories this week about hedge funds who own a lot of the stock, selling it back and forth between each other for a penny less every single time, because it actually messes with the systems, and it just shows a massive volume of shares being sold for a lesser price, which starts to drive the stock price back down again. You've seen stuff like the hedge funds paying or putting people on the news early on in the piece, going like trying to spook the investors. Going like, oh, all these guys, like, they're going to be left holding the bag because, if you don't sell now that it's high, you're going to lose all that money, and trying to appeal to people's greed.
Even manipulate. Some could call it trying to manipulate the
market.
The market.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and what I found really interesting was I've listened to two different, one was a podcast, one was a YouTube thing, where they had Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, on this week. And like you said to me before, he actually shows real remorse now. Like, when you hear him speak, he understands that he really did the wrong thing back then.
Yeah, but he didn't a couple of years ago.
No, he didn't. Yeah. He very much didn't. But what I found really interesting was something that he said, where he was like, I knew I did the wrong thing, and I knew I deserved to go to jail. So I got caught, and I deserved to go to jail, and I was fine with that. But I wasn't fine with it when I was sitting in jail and I watched what was happening in the GFC in 2008. And he thought, why am I the only person in prison?
Yeah.
Why aren't all these other people in prison as well? That's where he actually thought that he got done it.
Did you pick up the interesting thing you said about shorts? We had that debate about short selling, and he talked about the lengths that some of these short sellers or these hedge funds go to about intel gathering and having drones fly over factories to make sure that the amount of trucks that they say are leaving the factory aligns up with what they've reported to investors. And so that kind of stuff does validate the idea of being able to short someone to make sure that...
To a degree. I think realistically in my opinion, what the answer is to have laws around the accurate reporting of financial results to shareholders. Which they already are, but they just need to be enforced.
Not just because the reporting, I'm sure, is fine. It's the communication surrounding. So if you could get, like, if they brought in laws about people talking about on media about stocks. If there was a closer look on that, because any pump up or down is market manipulation. Well,
it's fraud. At the end of the day, it's fraud. So, it is. Like Jordan Belfort was saying, he was on the one hand, because he was the long game on everything. So he was lying to everyone to pump up the stock as much as he could, whereas the shorters were lying to everyone to drop the stock as much as they could.
Yeah.
Now, both of those things should be illegal. Like, both of those things are a form of market manipulation. Like, that sort of stuff should be what is...
There should be laws around,
and is illegal.
Yeah, you should be able to get popped for market manipulation when you're talking about it.
Now, you're exactly right. Now, I also feel this does come down to accurate reporting of financial results to your shareholders. Because at the end of the day, like, I've worked at a company before that inaccurately reported financial results. And, again, the investors are the ones who are left holding the bag. And that's
why you need short sellers.
Well,
Short
no,
sellers
no.
will get into that and understand that is and make sure that the price doesn't.
No, that's why
start
those
to go
people
up.
who inaccurately report financial results need to go to jail for fraud.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because it's fraud. If you have a publicly listed company and you inaccurately report your financials to your shareholders to influence them to either buy more shares or sell shares or whatever, that is fraud. So realistically, rather than having people pushing for long sells, people pushing for short sells, at the guts of it, you need to have the laws around accurate financial reporting be enforced.
I watched something really interesting. There was a company that I've been following for a while called Wirecard.
Right.
They're a German-based fintech company that does payment processing.
Right.
And they skyrocketed in market value. They were worth, I think, more than Germany's 2 banks put together.
Right.
And they're literally just a payment processor. And it's good practice to get an external accounting firm or to monitor your books.
Mm-hmm.
So they had, if I get this wrong, could get me in trouble, but I think it was, it might have been KPMG or, one large firm was looking at everything. They were $2 billion off. But they were still reporting, right? So they somehow gamed the system. And it wasn't until the investors go, something's wrong here. Let's get another investor, let's get another auditor to go and have a look. And they're like, no, you're $2 billion short. But you know what problem with that system? These audit companies, who pays them? The company they're auditing.
Yeah.
So they lose a customer if they don't start reporting the way that it should be reported. Now, the guy that used to run Wirecard, so one of the guys is in jail, and one of the guys is missing.
Yeah.
He's missing. But so you've got to look really in just because it's reported, that don't mean it's real.
Yeah, but I think, like, one of the things around this too, which the more that we discuss this, the more I think about it, is I feel like if you were more strict on the laws of financial reporting, it would actually force investors to do their due diligence properly. Because I think a lot of investors, particularly retail investors, because they're the uneducated investors, I feel a lot of them just look at trends and go, this one's going up, so I'm going to invest in that. They don't actually do any research into the company. I think a lot of people are invested into things they don't even understand what the company does. They've just seen an uptick on a graph, so they're like, well, I'm going to get on this while it's going up. Whereas if you took away the ability to have that market manipulation and people in the media telling you it's going to go one way or the other because there's financial interest involved in sending those one way or the other, it might actually make people think twice about whether or not they invest in a business before actually doing some research on what the business is, how it's going, what are their plans for the future.
Yeah, see, I'm too scared to... I definitely call myself a fundamentalist trader. Like, I dabble primarily in crypto markets, but if I don't understand it, I stay away from it. Yeah. And I don't care if people talk about, oh, look at the profits I made on this. I don't care. Good on you. But to me, that's gambling. Yep. If the product or service does not make sense, I won't invest. Yeah. I heard Kevin Hart was on the Joe Rogan Experience a few months ago. And one of the things that he was saying that he teaches his kids is, like, with buying shares, he goes, forget what the share price is and everything like that. What's the product, and is it something that people use every single day? Because he used the example of, like, so what do we do every day? We brush our teeth. All right, so there's a toothpaste company. That's something that we'll invest in, because that's something that people are going to use every single day. Whereas, it might be, you might have like a toy company, for example, that comes out with a new toy, and you're going to see an uptick in that company because people like the toy, but that toy will become obsolete at some point. So it's that mentality of, you're exactly right, being a fundamentalist. What is a product that's going to be used now and in the future, rather than what's just a hot thing right now, which it's like a sugar spike, right? It just goes, and then you crash off it, right? And then you've got the stress of having to be a day trader trying to keep up with that stuff. But I feel like, out of all this, what it really comes down to is people
just like every other aspect of life, taking some personal responsibility and actually doing your due diligence before you invest in something.
Yeah.
And not just going off, you know, like there's a massive hedge fund that's shorted this company. Okay, why have they shorted it?
Yeah.
Like realistically, the GameStop short made sense. It made sense to do it. And obviously, they didn't count on Reddit going out and doing what they did.
Mm-hmm.
But in essence, you're right. That company was going to be a dying company anyway because they hadn't innovated. They only had brick and mortar stores. They had no online store. So any investor from the outside could see that happening and go, and again, if you're actually going to do your due diligence, they could see that and go, okay, these guys aren't even on the internet. That's not even a present company. That's a past company.
Yeah.
I'm not going to invest any money in that. I'm going to invest in someone else, like a Amazon online or an electronics boutique that's got an online store or something like that. I'm going to park my money somewhere else. So I feel like out of anything, just due diligence in anything that it is that you're investing into.
Yeah, know what you're putting your money into.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
have personal responsibility.
You wouldn't just give your money to someone on the street that you didn't know if they just because they promised. A lot of people do, but like they promised you something.
Yeah.
You want to know, okay, what it is. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
What's it for?
That's right.
You know, you're talking about returns. Whenever someone's talking about guaranteeing your return, that's a red flag.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't guarantee a return in a free market.
Yep.
And GameStop has proved that like it's exponentially more risky now than it was before.
Yeah. So again, if we want to, because we do believe in being solutions based, what can we learn out of this entire thing? Do your due diligence.
Yeah, I did. I'm 600% up.
Nice.
I've only made one emotional move.
Yep.
Which you know about.
Yep.
But extremely calculated. Set targets for what I believed as a fundamental. Didn't get caught up in the FOMO.
Mm-hmm.
Had a strategy. Stuck to the strategy.
Yep.
And it's worked very well.
Yeah, and that having a strategy and sticking to it thing is the difference between, you know, like, okay, you might, let's say you've got a price ceiling where you're going to sell your crypto at, for example. Yeah, okay, the crypto might go slightly over your price ceiling, but also, like, because it's so cyclical, it could also go well down below that as well. So if it gets to that ceiling, like, that was part of your plan, sell it, take the profits.
And see, I don't feel bad. So something you'll notice, you'll never hear me say, I wish I had done this or I wish I had done that, because I couldn't. I can't change that. I put no energy into those things because it's not something worth feeling anything about.
Well, exactly, because you can't change it.
You can't change it.
If something's happened in the past, no matter what it is, whether it's a financial thing or something else in your life, if it's happened in the past, you can't change it now. So why would you let that ruin your day?
Yeah. I've taken profits and then things have gone 20% higher and I'm happy as.
Yep.
Because a profit's a profit.
Yeah.
And some of the losses, I've got a strategy around losses. I never get, I don't sell at a loss.
No. Especially on cryptos.
Yeah.
Cryptos always generally come back up again.
Yeah.
At least at the moment.
Yeah. It's just cycles, understanding the cycles. What I want to say about crypto too, though, and I only just had this realization 3 or 4 days ago, people are saying that this cycle is different to every other because of blah, blah, blah. This is exactly the same cycle as 2017.
Yeah.
The same stuff's happening. No, this one's different because of X, Y, Z. We've said the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same, the exact same cycle. People saying, oh, you know, Bitcoin's never going to go down again. It'll go down.
Yeah, of course
it'll go down. It's a case of when, but it'll go down.
Yeah, because the fundamentals of it is, like, people are treating it like a stock and they want to be able to secure those profits.
Yeah.
Now, what will be very, very interesting is if one day crypto gets to a point where it becomes a real currency where people are widely able to use it for everything, then it'll stabilize a little bit more, I feel.
Yeah, for sure.
But until that happens, of course, Bitcoin's going to come back down again because it's going to get to a point where people have doubled their money. Sort of like, well, the real measure of wealth at the moment is still my country's currency. It's still Australian dollars in Australia. So I'm going to secure my Australian dollar profits that I've got in my Bitcoin by selling it now, which causes the price to dip, and I'm going to buy back in on the dip.
That's what I don't understand about a lot of people that are saying that that's not going to happen because all these massive hedge funds have started to place Bitcoin bets. Yeah, to make money.
Yeah, how do they make profit out of it?
They're not
by selling it.
Yeah, they will sell it and make a profit, and then buy it again and sell it. And
that's right.
Like that's how.
And they're going to be selling large amounts at a time because they want to secure all their profits up here, and then they know that's going to make the market dip, and then they're going to buy back in on the dip, and they're going to go again.
Yeah. So keep a clear head.
Yeah.
Don't stress out about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fun.
It has been.
It's been fun, and I still think the cycle's on for another. Might be another 3 or 4 months.
Yep.
Same as last time, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Like it probably finished by June, July, 2018, and then the luster went away, and then.
So if you were a FOMO investor and you've invested in any sort of cryptocurrency that you've lost money on, you've lost value on it, I'll say at the moment, because you only lose the money when you sell it at a loss. Just hold it. Just hold it. Just leave the money in there now.
Unless if you bought a shitcoin that is not going to exist. Different story. But if you've bought if you bought some of the large cap ones, or some of the ones that really make sense, you'd be fine.
That's right. Just hold on to it. And again, which sort of brings you back to the point of never invest more money than you can afford.
Yeah.
Because you still need to be able to live on the side with the cash that you've got available to you. You don't want to get suckered into going, FOMO investment, I'm all in.
Yeah.
I'm all in on this crypto, and then it dives, and you're like, shit, I need to pay the rent this week.
That's something I saw on Discord about those games, those Wall Street bets guys. They were saying like, these people have yachts to lose. We eat ramen.
Yeah.
Cup noodle.
One of the favourite ones I saw was like divorce finalised in December. Just lost his job or something like that and filed for bankruptcy last week. I'm all in.
I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah. All right. So key points to take out of today's episode. Thank you for the response to last week. Let's keep that going. Let's keep that respectful discourse going as well, where we can be open to different ideas.
Challenge yourself to have one of those conversations with a peer. This week.
Spread the goodness.
Yeah.
Spread the goodness. Listen to understand. Don't listen to respond.
Yeah. And the way you're going to do it, the best way to do it is you listen first.
Yeah.
You listen to understand first.
Yep.
And then I think the effectiveness will start to be witnessed.
That's right. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, leave a comment on the YouTube just to see if it does affect the algorithm, just out of pure interest point.
Anti-gay products.
Anti-gay products.
Don't say anti-gay products, just tell us the product.
Just tell us the product, that's right. Just think of a product that could be anti-gay. Don't say this is anti-gay because of this. Just think of it, just post it. Number 3, at the RDO podcast, we love the gays. Number 4, if Israel allows us into this and you want to come on and have a chat to us about your beliefs, by all means, mate, hit us up, let us know. Was there anything else? Number 5, do your due diligence on stocks.
Yeah, look after yourself financially.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you very much for joining us again this week, guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye.